How was your childhood when you were growing up?
My childhood was kind of strange because it was normal. And parents and family, and we were a family of 12, and normal with school, grade school, high school, and then after that, military service.
Where were you born? Raised?
I was born in Laurel, Mississippi. It's a few miles north of Biloxi, give you an idea, but it's around Hattiesburg. Those are Brett Favre's home. Give you a little a little geography there.
What were your childhood activities growing up?
Activities, when I wasn't working, it was baseball, mostly baseball and track. And that's what I really liked. I was too small to play basketball, so I played baseball and ran track.
Who were your role models growing up?
At the time, my role model was my father first, whom I admired and enjoyed being with him. He wasn't an educated man, but he was educated in the way of the world and gave me some great things to think about, shaped my life. And other role model, or in sports, I would say would be Jackie Robinson, whom I admired for his courage and his ability to play ball. And those were my two main role models that I grew up with.
Did you have any jobs as a child?
Other than jobs around the house, I did. We worked for others in the community. Some farm work, some cutting trees, timber, and after that, in the fall, we pick cotton and chop cotton and harvest potatoes and all farm products.
How does the jump feel from growing up on a farm to living in a city like Milwaukee?
Crowded. We had space. I guess growing up, the difference I can see was growing up at home, my nearest neighbors were maybe a mile, 2 miles away, the two. So we had a lot of space to run, but maybe that's why I loved track. We used to run wherever we went. Milwaukee, everything was, when I first came here, was crowded, no privacy, but there were privacy, but none that I had enjoyed before. So that was the difference.
What year were you born?
1936, June 22nd, 1936.
When did you come from, after you went to the Army, you came to Milwaukee, is that right?
Yes.
How is the South different than the North, like in terms culturally and even racially?
I would say racially we were separated, but as growing up that way, being separated, it didn't really have that much an effect on me because as being separated, we were always working together. The only thing we didn't worship or go to school together. And those were that difference before service and when I went.
You told me about a number of ways you were involved with civil rights. Can you tell me about your experience with the sit-downs with Dick Gregory?
That came kind of later because when I came to Milwaukee, the main thing that was happening then were open housing. And during the open housing marches and that stuff, Dick Gregory came to Milwaukee, and I met him, and we were in a group together where he did some talks and hit on what was happening in the day, and he was a very, very dynamic speaker who could lure you or tell you. He would tell you the tragedies or the things of the day, but he could also bring some humor into it and inject it, so it wasn't all just dire thoughts and needs, but he brought life into the movement. And later on, as we went through the tours of the South on the buses, where we would have bus trips from here through the South, we'd encounter some things, and then during our sit-in days, the days we were sit-in, he would always inject humor into some of the things they did. And I think, to me, one of the most significant things that he said during a sit-in at a lunch counter, he said, "What if they served us and we don't have any money?" Now, that took me a while to digest and understand, but later when I did, I understand the meaning of what he was saying. And just briefly, are you equipped to handle what you're being served? So, made me think and said, I need to go get some to more benefit and encourage myself to be ready to accept what is being served. Mm-hmm.
What things did you encounter in these sit-ins? If you're comfortable talking about it, what things did you encounter, like could be good things or bad things?
Well, the good things were you met some good people. I met a lot of good people who had genuine stories to tell and was genuinely interested in changing a way of life and bringing the whole American dream together. And these people are that, we were taught not to try to destroy. We didn't come to destroy, but we wanted to exercise our rights as citizens, and those were the things that I enjoyed about. And then the other stuff, the other language of the name calling and all that, didn't really bother me because I had heard it all my life. And as a young man then, I was only in my early 20s. So those things I had heard most of my life, and it didn't bother me because of the things my father said, taught us that, you know, and that made me stronger. I wouldn't react. And then I remember the teachings that he taught, that nonviolence would be the way to go.
So you had done some marches with Dr. King too?
I did one march with Dr. King, and then we had had a march on Washington, and then I did a march with Dr. Abernathy after King's death. And the other marching I did were in the city of Milwaukee, where we marched constantly every night for a period of time during the open house marches. And that was with Father Crappie and the commandos, who were the leaders of those group and marches.
How heavy did religion play a role in your life with like yourself and Father Crappie and your involvement with him?
Religion played a role in my life because it started early. We was in church when I can remember. That was a social gathering in my community, and that's where everything happened. And religious teaching and the things of it is one that carried me through. Because at times when I felt threatened or when I felt alone, when I felt lost, and sometimes I were lost, I would look for a church. And most of the time I would find someone at the church that would give me some good advice, could help me with my needs, and that strengthened my faith and made me more religious and made me want to do the same thing as I grew up.
You told me about African Americans and Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's like it should be more encouraged in the African American communities, or what?
Yes, it most certainly could be and should be. And speaking of that, my first encounter here with the Catholic Church were that we was limited in the parishes that we attended or that we were welcome at. There was, and we had to get over that and try to fight through those things, and working with the archdiocese and the churches and the priests. We tried to do things that would show that we could do the same thing as the other parishes could. We could be as good, we could produce, and we could be self-sufficient. But along the way we had some hard times with that, and I don't know how candid you want me to be.
That's good. What was the Knights of St. Peter Claver, and how were you involved with that?
Okay. The Knights of Peter Claver, I remember in my hometown of down in Biloxi and Hattiesburg, that the Knights of Peter Claver was formed in Mobile, Alabama in 1915. And just give you a brief history of the Knights of Peter Claver. St. Peter Claver was a priest that came from Spain. And he found a way that he would meet the ships, the slave ships in South America, and he would be the first one that the slaves would see when they came off the boat, and he would service their needs as far as illness, hunger, and any other things they had. And St. Peter Claver humbly baptized, and more than 200,000 people at that time. And the history of that, the Clavers, that when we came to in America, they had the Knights of Columbus. And in the southern states, you didn't join the Knights of Columbus. So we formed the Knights of St. Peter Claver on the same premise as to work with the priests, to work in the church, to do the things that needed to be done as outreach and ministers of the church, visiting the sick, helping the poor, and anything we could to assist the pastor.
During the 1960s, around that time?
Yes.
How else were you involved in pushing for fair housing and ending school segregation?
One of the things we did, I worked out of the parish at St. Boniface and at St. Benedict de Moor. That's where I was mostly with, because that's where I met my wife, and she was going to school there. So I moved from St. Boniface down to St. Benedict. And there I joined the Holy Name Society, which was another fraternal group within the church. And we tried doing good things down there. And St. Ben's, as we call it, was a boarding school. And we had a lot of things that happened down there. We, along with other groups and other people, and we formed different committees and different organizations that we were with. It's The first jail apostolate came out of St. Ben's during that time. The other were the Birthright that was formed at St. Ben's, and the first meal programs we did at St. Ben's. And then as we did that, we found that we still were missing something. We weren't still fully indoctrinated into the Catholic Church, because we still wasn't welcome at our mother church, which we called it St. John's Cathedral, St. Mark's, Jesus Church at Marquette. We could go there, but we would sit in the balcony. And so we only had St. Ben, and St. Ben, as I said, was considered a missionary school. So it was also a boarding school. And there we did have a lot of